Lore Together is proud to be part of the Boss Rush Games Network. Feel free to find out more at bossrushgames.com/network. Hi, I'm Safi.
And I'm Mystic.
And this is Lore Together. This is the podcast where a husband and wife team go over all the storytelling, world building, and characters of video games because it's what we like to do together. We lore together.
Yep. And this is episode 72.
That's a special number somewhere, right? Like 72 means something?
Probably. I know 42, but we passed that one a while ago.
Well, we're well past 42. That's for sure.
I wouldn't subject you to a text-based adventure game of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I think you're giving me gas pain just thinking about that right now.
Before we get into the episode, if you'd like to contact us, you can do that over on Twitter and Instagram at Lore Together. You can do that by email at loretogether@gmail.com. Or if you'd like to support the podcast, you can do that in two ways. One is by giving us a 5-star review, which some of you have been doing on Spotify. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
And if you'd like to support this podcast financially, you can do that over on Patreon at patreon.com/loretogether, where you can pay a per-episode pledge to get early access to episodes, as well as Let's Plays and other things we have coming down the line.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you because that Patreon helps us do awesome things like have an outside editor, which gives us more time for research, which Mystic desperately needs.
Yeah.
Because we are both running out of time. And the holidays,
work.
Yeah, and the holidays haven't even come up yet, so we're like, So thank you everybody who supports us on the Patreon, and if you'd like to join them and be just as cool, we would love it.
All right, you ready to get into this one?
No, but I never really am, and that's kind of the premise of our show.
We are covering a whole series in one episode.
No, we're not. What are you doing to me? What are you doing to me?
We're doing broad strokes of a whole series.
What? Are you serious?
The first game was in 1993.
I'm not ready. If we're doing a whole series in one episode, no, guys, I didn't sign up for this.
Yes, you did.
No, this is kind of like thinking I was going to go on like a lazy log ride in a theme park, and we're actually on a roller coaster in the rain. I'm not prepared.
So, 1993, it is a first-person shooter.
Are we doing Doom?
We are doing Doom.
Yes! Okay, now I'm in it to win it.
Now you can see we can do a whole episode, like the whole series, because up until a certain point, there's not a lot of story.
No, I mean, but the world itself is kind of an interesting premise of what happens and why what happens.
Yeah.
So I do know a little bit about this.
Okay.
But I do not know enough to really have it spoiled for me.
Right. So there's 5 main games and a bunch of expansions and DLCs and everything. It kind of gets a bit overwhelming, so that's why we're doing very broad strokes.
Broad strokes?
Yeah.
Like a Monet painting.
Yeah. There's 3 main arcs to the franchise. You have the classic games from 93 to 97. You have the Doom 3 era from 2003 to 2014. And then you have the rebooted era from 2013 until the present day. That being said, I just noticed that 2 of those eras overlap. I'm not going to worry about it.
Oh my gosh! What a time to discover.
It might be
your
a
script.
typo. It might be a typo on my part. Whatever. It's fine. Just basically, there's 3 different eras. It doesn't matter that much if there's 3 different eras because in terms of game canon, they all kind of seem to interact on some level. Even the reboot interacting with the earlier games. And,
okay.
And basically, that's because each game may not be in the same timeline as the others. It really depends on the fan community's view on the canon. We'll try to make some sense of it, though.
That sounds like the same issue kind of Zelda has, but not really because they tried to fix it.
Yeah.
So
we're going to be going through, again, the very broad strokes of the entire timeline, and you can dive into Doom all you want. There's hours of lore dives and such on YouTube. There's 6 novels, which have some departures from the games.
There's novels, and we need to read them, right? Like, this is...
4 of the novels don't even include hell.
Nice. I like the idea that there's a Doom rom-com out there somewhere.
There is a board game, which seems to be well done. It's got a solid 7 out of 10, roughly, on Board Game Geek.
Hey, add us at Lore Together if you played it, and tell us what you think.
There's a TTRPG one-shot for D&D 5th edition, published by Critical Role.
What? You're kidding, guys? You don't understand.
Written by I can't remember who the one of the author, but the other author was Matt Mercer.
Of course, because he does way too much.
Yeah. And 2 movies. No comment on those. The less said, the better.
Oh, well, so I feel bad too because like Dwayne The Rock Johnson, or you could just call him The Rock, whatever you want to do.
He was actually as The Rock. I think it was kind of one of his first starring roles. It's not a good movie, though. I actually went to theaters to see it, too.
There's certain actors where, like, I'm always rooting for them, even if they're in trash, and The Rock is one of them. Vin Diesel's another one. Like, there's just certain actors I'm like, I'm probably just going to watch this, even though it's trash, because you're awesome.
Yeah, so according to several developers over time, the games are all connected, and every Doom Guy main character originates from Commander Keen, who is the grandson of William J. Blazkowicz, probably mispronounced that, the protagonist of the original Wolfenstein. So all of them are connected.
Okay, so Wolfenstein, for those of you who don't know, all you really need to know...
We'll get to that eventually, too.
We'll get to it, but all you need to know is Nazis are bad and we're shooting all of them. That's pretty much the preference, the premise of Wolfenstein.
Yeah, so this makes each Doom protagonist so far a Blazkowicz family member in some way.
Oh, okay.
Curious if they ever have a Doom gal. It almost happened in the most recent title. Though I hope when it does happen, she's better dressed and more practically armored than some of the fan art.
Let's not get into that. That's a debate for another day.
If you're wearing armor, your whole torso
should be covered.
Yes. And as I may have mentioned, there's some wibbly wobbliness of the timeline, so things may pop in and out. Let's get into our actual lore now.
Okay.
Our first stop to understanding the deeper Doom lore requires us to learn about ardent energy.
Okay. I'm already concerned.
Ardent energy is a form of pollution-free renewable energy that was discovered by the UAC in the 21st century. The UAC is the Union Aerospace Corporation. They're a multi-planetary conglomerate that operates facilities on Mars and its 2 moons, Phobos and Deimos. Which is funny because both of those moons are very small.
Yeah. Well, but if they're resource rich, then somebody's going to claim them. So it makes sense. So a non-pollution making renewable energy is this, and it's not solar or wind.
Right. Though a modern discovery, ardent energy has been around for millions of years in a raw and more dark form before humanity got its hands on it. Now, we did call it pollution-free and everything, but it's not clean in that it's actually the souls of the damned.
That's not renewable either.
Depends how you view it.
No, like there comes a point where the souls of, I mean, it's kind of like oil. Like there will come a point where it will be gone if you just keep going for it.
When a mortal soul is sent to hell, the suffering they experience creates miasmatic energy, which the legions of the damned feed off. Over time, it was found that taking live humans and harvesting their souls directly was not only more efficient, but the discarded husks would eventually transform into demons, benefiting hell's constant need for a growing legion.
So this is literally just capitalism creates a hellscape. Literally. Literally, this is the premise of Doom.
Though the process takes several years, it was discovered that if these damned souls were combined with sentinel energy, we'll get there, it would create argent energy.
Argent, not ardent?
You know, I saw both different things. I think I may have mistyped something again. There's been a lot of stuff with this production of this episode. I apologize for any errors now. Just go with it.
Okay. All right. I'll say ardent energy.
Yeah. The discovery of this nightmarish production method for the so-called miracle power source is what ignited the civil war on the planet Argent Denur, homeworld of the Argenta, or as they are more commonly known, Sentinels. So let's discuss the Argenta.
Yeah, let's do it.
Eons ago, Argent Denur was a lifeless husk until a galactic crystalline object called the World Spear smashed into it, piercing it from pole to pole and tearing the planet asunder.
Now I suddenly imagine this, because we've been catching up with Star Trek Lower Decks, that it's a crystalline entity. Like that, Chris, this is the actual, what the crystalline entity does in general? Okay.
Then eldritch creatures known as wraiths soon appeared, seeding life up to the planet.
Seeding life?
Yes.
How did they do it? Did they just sneeze on it?
Possibly.
Okay.
Achoo.
That was ridiculous. I'm sorry. You guys have to understand Mystic is a very large man, and he just went, Hachoo.
Buddy's been doing it a lot lately too. So,
Okay, but he's not. But you are 4 times his size, sir. It's not the same.
Generations later, the Wraith are worshipped by Agent Dinner's warrior society. Think Space Vikings.
Okay, Space Vikings.
Humanoid bipedal.
Okay.
The symbiosis of these two species, the Wraith and the Argento, would prosper for thousands of years before eventually encountering a highly advanced alien race known as the Makers. Maykrs. I'm going to probably say Makers, or whatever. Yeah.
I'm thinking haymakers.
Right.
But.
They dropped a letter to make it look alien, and it drives me nuts because it's going to sound like maker all the time.
Okay. Well, that's fair.
I'm sure there's an actual pronunciation that they do when they're voice acting, but...
The Makers.
Yeah.
I don't
something
know.
like that. So,
something silly.
led by the Khan Maker, they came bearing tithes of friendship and a promise of access to an afterlife in their realm of Urdok.
Are we going to explain what Urdok is?
It's the realm that the Makers come from.
Okay.
It's their home.
Okay.
So, the two races work together well, conquering vast swaths of space and creating a grand empire. During a brief war with the Hell Dimension, the Empire discovered Argent energy. I think it is supposed to be Argent.
Okay.
Because otherwise I mistyped it a lot. So... Though as time went on, the Darken, unless they're two different types of energy and then we're just totally off, let us know.
Oh my God.
The wikis are, they're not bad, but I had to, for actual breakdowns of the timeline that didn't delve into ridiculous minutia, I had to do a lot of research on secondary sources from the wikis. So a lot of articles explaining things.
Okay.
So... As time went on, the dark and horrific truth about the new miracle field would come to light, fracturing the Empire and igniting a vast civil war. It was during this conflict that a time-traveling Doom Marine would appear amongst their midst.
What?
Despite his best efforts, those that were loyal to the Wraiths were obliterated, with vast swaths of the Argenta homeworld pulled into the Hell Dimension.
Oh no.
After the war, only the Makers' true believers were left alive, and the Doom Marine was entombed within the depths of hell.
Interesting.
Yeah. The Makers that survived would continue to spread their message of an afterlife and the dark blessings of Argent energy onto the rest of the galaxy, relatively uncontested until they eventually come across Earth. Now,
welcome to it.
Yeah, welcome to Earth. Pushing ahead a few millennia to Earth, the human race has flourished, and plans for the colonization of Mars in 2049 were well underway thanks to the efforts of Dr. Samuel Hayden and the Union Aerospace Corporation.
Okay.
A new civilization is established on the far-off colony, and in the decades that follow, great scientific breakthroughs would be made. Eventually, in 2095, Argent plasma would be discovered in fissures within Mars, becoming the human race's first interaction with the ancient energy.
Does it look specifically like a plasma? Like, is there a bit of a flow to it or anything
it's like
that?
I mean, it's like reddish from what I remember seeing, and it's like a reddish, lightning looking thing. So yeah, kind of plasmy looking.
Okay. Yeah. So, and if you want to know what plasma, the fourth state of matter, looks like, you can apparently make it with grapes in a microwave very quickly.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Look it up. You can look it up on YouTube.
Look it up on YouTube. Kids, ask your parents for help.
Yes. Yes.
Before you destroy your microwave and make your parents upset.
And no, microwaving your phone will not charge it. Please don't. That's so old, I shouldn't have to warn anybody about it, but here we are.
Later, the colony would discover the Soul Cube, a bizarre artifact from Hell, along with stone tablets created by the previous, now extinct, Martian civilization.
Oh, is Mars extinct because of Argent plasma power sources?
Probably because of Hell invasion.
Yeah.
These inscriptions would lead Dr. Hayden to the Well, the source of all Hell's energy, and where Argent energy was first refined by the Argenta.
Okay.
There's a lot of, dimensional hopping and stuff. By 2127, the Argent Tower would be completed, allowing for the siphoning from the well and the conversion of Hell energy into a new Argent energy power source, which, just as it did with the Argenta, skyrocketed the human race's capabilities for scientific breakthroughs.
Interesting.
Things seemed to be going smoothly for the UAC. They now had provided the sole source of energy for Earth.
Oh, that's no good.
Had various military contracts.
That's also no good.
And were regularly churning out new advancements in technology. That was not too bad.
No one's not so bad, but if it's fueled by the damned, which it sounds like they're continuing to feed into the power of hell. Yeah.
By 2144, they had discovered a way into hell and were regularly sending in expeditions to recover creatures and artifacts.
That's... No. Why are we doing this? Why... What? It's very much that famous Jurassic Park line. You were so busy thinking about how you how to do it.
Whether you could. You didn't think about whether you should.
Yeah. I never get the quote right, but I get the premise of it right.
The UAC, now led by a newly cybernetic Hayden.
So he's going to live forever.
Yeah, pretty much.
Great. We have another pharaoh, don't we? Great. That's exactly what I wanted. Merry Christmas to me.
I forget which episode was.
It's the one where
Horizon.
I wanted to punch the universe, literally. That one.
Check out our episode on Horizon Zero Dawn if you want to learn about Ted Pharaoh.
Oh, but you won't. You won't want to learn about Ted Pharaoh. It just makes you want to cry. And I feel like I'm going to be in a similar position this episode.
Okay, so the UAC, with this new cybernetic Hayden, leads a manned expedition into hell and ends up retrieving the sarcophagus of the Doomslayer, albeit with the death of the entire team from demons shortly after.
Oh.
A month later, an experiment in one of the labs triggers a cascade event which results in the first full-scale invasion of the colony by the minions of hell.
Well, you shouldn't have put such a clear target on yourself if you didn't want hell to come cast down its spite upon you.
Right. So now Doom 3 portrays these events in a possible alternate dimension as it follows an unnamed Marine in Bravo team that's sent to Mars just as hell invades.
Oh, okay.
So after the first incursion, things quickly returned to normal and expeditions into hell's depths continued with the remains of imps and hell knights regularly recovered. Though these trips came with the high cost of expedition members, there were always so many more willing replacements eager to jump into the jaws of hell for science, which I love science. I don't know if I'd be willing to jump into hell for it.
There's an ego thing there, right? Like if you hear that more than half the team dies every time somebody goes down and you decide you're going to go in anyway, it's because you believe you will be smarter than the people before you.
Yeah, but eventually you have to realize you're going to, most people are going to die. So even if, not everyone is going to be like an ego boost thinking they're going to make it through. Someone is going in there just to be a scientist, you know?
Right.
So there's
a lot of scientists with egos, though, too.
Yeah, but it's a little different from a book I am currently listening to, Project Hail Mary, where a bunch of astronauts are sent to a different star system because they are the last hope for humanity to do research.
Yeah.
Like here, it's like you're going into hell, into the realm of the damned.
Yeah.
Where we are kind of at fault for them coming here.
Yeah.
To do research. Like.
But and also, sometimes there's just some things that aren't worth trying to study.
Right.
It's kind of reminding me of, I forget what the island is called, but it's one of the few islands where the modern world hasn't really touched them because they react violently to, helicopters flying by, boats passing by, any outsiders on this island of people. And actually in the last few years, there was somebody who decided he was going to try to proselytize to them and ended up getting murdered in the process because he really honestly thought
Did you say that was Sentinel Island?
No, I did not.
Yeah, that's Sentinel Island. Yeah.
That's Sentinel Island. And I there's a lot of discussion of, guys, just leave them alone.
Right.
Like, they want to be left alone. They've made it very clear. They have their own wants and desires. We will not gain anything by forcing our way over there, they have rights. Leave them alone.
Right.
And hell's not quite the same way because it's not necessarily about people's rights, but I do think that you can leave hell alone because leave it the hell alone even because as much as it might be interesting to find out how it works, it's one of those slippery slopes for humanity where, we will be literally doomed. I keep being punny and I'm not trying. Of course, though, if that was the logic in this universe, we wouldn't have a video game. But I'm just right. Thinking like it just have some hubris, people. Just a little bit of hubris.
Though the forces of hell were driven back, their influence remained as strange phenomena began to occur throughout the Martian colonies, escalating in scale over months. What started as strange noises quickly became worse as mysterious suicides and unexplainable disappearances rose, while outbreaks of inexplicably random violence became common throughout the labs. Though these events would swiftly be covered up by the UAC, eventually the majority of the staff of the sites began to file their concerns about the situation, and despite nothing being done about it, the concerns about hell's contamination of the colony became common knowledge.
Uh-oh. SpaghettiOs. I don't know why I said that.
Because you're loopy?
I'm loopy.
Safi's a little punchy.
I'm a little punchy. I'm having a good time. That's probably part of it.
By November of 2145, the Doom Marine, Doom 1 and 2, would arrive on Mars, sent there as punishment for assaulting a superior officer that ordered his squad to fire on civilians.
So he was punished for protecting civilians from his squad leader. Okay.
I mean, sorry to say, not completely unheard of in the military.
This isn't even the first video game story where we've heard that plot line.
Right.
So, just thinking of Resident Evil 0.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. From there, the events of the first two games unfold with another unnamed soldier battling a second and third incursion of hell on Mars. Early games didn't have a heck of a lot of story within the game themselves. You just had what was in the manual and a few splash screens. So,
well, and this is the one where like basically every low functioning computer there's a goal of somebody out there who wants to play Doom on it.
So, funny enough, researching this game and trying to find certain articles and stuff on Doom was hampered by the fact that somebody got Doom to run in Notepad on Windows.
I just remember
using ASCII characters, and it runs like at 60 frames per second. It's weird.
I remember that there was a big hubbubaloo of this when someone was able to run a version of Doom on the screen of a pregnancy test.
Yes.
And it wasn't actually run by the computer in a pregnancy test. Most pregnancy tests don't have anything close to even a calculator's worth of computer data on there. But somebody got it to run on that screen, and it was just that was like the only thing you could find when you searched Doom for like a good 2-3 months.
I think the funniest one I found was someone ran Doom in Doom.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Also, they've run them on little Lego screens. Like,
oh, I see that.
So it's ridiculous.
It's everywhere. It's prolific almost.
During the events of Doom and Doom 2, the Doom Marine regularly goes in and out of hell, taking down various minions and monstrosities. Eventually, he would become trapped there, endlessly fighting off waves upon waves of demons before emerging millions of years in the past on the planet of Argent D'Nur.
So, okay, and hence the tomb of the time-traveling Doomslayer.
Yes. There he was found wounded by the Sentinels, and after proving his worth in the gladiatorial arena, he would lead the charge on Hell's legions during the Civil War, slowly becoming mute and going mad with rage after years of violence and earning the title of Doomslayer.
War never changes.
Safi has to do an episode soon.
Shut up, I can't. Don't. Life's changed and I can't, and you're just making me sad because I can't do what I want to do.
If you'd like to help us do that, go over to Patreon. No, we do that plug.
If you want to help Safi have free time, pay us a Patreon of about, at least a quarter of her yearly salary. I'm sorry. Did we say we were loopy?
Yeah.
I'm loopy, at least. I think I'm dragging Mystic down with me.
A little bit. After a great betrayal within the Night Sentinels, whilst he led a strike mission into Hell, he would become entombed in a sarcophagus in the depths of Hell, as we mentioned before. Mm-hmm. With normality seemingly returning to Mars again, the Doomslayer mysteriously missing, and the soldier from Doom 3 reassigned elsewhere, the USA swept it all under the rug once more and then went back to business as usual.
Because profit is more important than humanity's safety.
By 2148, the UAC, still not learning a single lesson from all of this, had begun sending regular expeditions into the depths of Hell.
You know what, Mystic? You should have done this in April for Earth Day. Because this is very poignant.
No, I'm doing it in October for Halloween.
The fear is this was actually us right now happening in our lives. Yeah.
Also, I just want to see you playing Doom Eternal. So.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'll just be screaming a lot. Like that's kind of me wants to be like, oh my gosh, shoot it.
Mars had been accident-free for years until 2149 when the Doom Marine, now the Doom Slayer, would escape from his sarcophagus to find the colony once more under attack from the forces of Hell.
I love the idea. Now, please tell me this is in the game where there actually is a sign that says how many days since our last accident, and it's
I could not tell you if there was
1,000 something.
I could not tell you if there was. I just love how it just keeps happening to the same family.
Yeah, there's just something. It's a game about destiny. Well, which it has to be because it's kind of, as much as there are people who believe in hell, hell is an idea of a dark fantasy, right?
Right.
So destiny being part of it is kind of thematically makes sense.
It just kind of feels like a small world, though.
It does.
Yeah. The incursions of demons this time is because of the machinations of Dr. Olivia Pierce, not related to Dr. Glenn Pierce from Superliminal.
I like the idea that October is the month of Pierce.
Dr. Olivia Pierce. Hello, this is Dr. Olivia Pierce.
Stop. I'm going to go to sleep again.
Dr. Olivia Pierce used the colony's Argent energy supply to permanently tear open a portal to Hell.
Why would you do this?
After they promised a solution to a rare genetic condition she suffered from after years of exposure to Hell energy.
Wait, but hold on. Okay, there's a lot going on here that just is awful. One, you're going to re-expose yourself to a bunch of Hell energy to cure yourself from the disease caused by Hell energy? Have we thought this through? Two, this sounds like exactly what people were afraid of when we first opened the Hadron Collider. This sound. You remember when everybody?
It was going to create a black hole. It was going to.
It's going to tear the Earth in half and everything.
It would make negative. It would make strange quarks that would.
End the universe. That's what everybody thought the Hadron Collider was going to do.
This
and
has been happened. That fear of the new science is ever present. To the point that when trains were first invented.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, hearing about what people were saying.
They were afraid that
trains.
people were going to die from being on a train because it would go too fast that their lungs wouldn't be able to inflate.
Right. Or they would, your brain would explode because you couldn't process how fast things were moving past you. But this is literally that, right? There's no questioning that this is literally what that promised. And for an even weaker excuse, right? The Hadron Collider is literally trying to understand the physical properties of our world at a deeper level, which does in turn kind of help humanity in the long run. Whereas this is literally it's the equivalent of a doctor got sick and decided that she wanted to make the world burn so that way she could live a little longer. That's literally what happened. So.
Yeah. And the affliction caused her to live in constant pain and agony, unable to walk without the assistance of a special exoskeleton. Now, as you might have guessed, she was merely a puppet for Hell's legions.
Right.
Basically, she would later be transformed into a spider mastermind, basically the exoskeleton comes into play, for her efforts before being brutally destroyed by the Doomslayer.
I mean, this is just a constant theme in any story about a realm where, you know, being malicious is, you know, and might makes right. And, you know, pain and destruction is the way of the world. Like, to buy into that and think you can master it is to be mastered by it instead. That is continuously a theme that keeps coming up again and again.
Yeah. The demon incursion is quickly put down again thanks to the efforts of the awakened Slayer and a tenuous alliance with Dr. Samuel Hayden.
Uh-oh. This guy. The cyborg.
After the dark discovery of the secret of Argent Energy, the Doomslayer would also destroy the colony's siphoning tower, cutting humanity off from this corrupted element and basically its entire energy supply, plunging the world into darkness by the end of the game.
Okay, but if we want a reusable energy, why did we destroy the sun in the process? Did we mess up wind?
This didn't require all those unsightly solar panels. It just required tapping into the hell dimension.
I have this dream that like Doomslayer like finishes it and then suddenly it's a music video for Here Comes the Sun. But it's like done by what band am I thinking of? Disturbed. Like
I was going to say Nano War of Steel.
I think either one of those could work. Yes.
Nano War of Steel is a parody band, if you don't know. So
yeah, they could still work. I still think it could work.
Using an artifact known as the Crucible, the Slayer destroys the well once and for all, cutting off Argent energy from both Hell, Earth, and anyone else using it.
Okay.
He is later betrayed by Hayden.
Of course. This is, again, it's Pharaoh all over again.
Who took the Crucible for himself, citing that great research and scientific breakthroughs could still be made with the last source of Argent energy in the solar system.
Uh-oh. Damned souls?
Dr. Hayden, also clearly still learning nothing from the past, teleports the Slayer to an unknown location.
I feel like, considering the lineage of the Doomslayer, we have to assume he will find his way back one way or another.
Though the forces of the damned Legion of Hell were dealt a substantial blow by the Doomslayer, it was not enough to stem the endless tide. Remember, they can just...
Yeah.
Their last battle had weakened the dimensions, and so they were easily able to break through to our universe once more, swiftly overrunning Earth, wiping out about 60% of the planet's population.
Right, I remember you talking about this.
Who are now almost defenseless after losing their supply of Argent energy.
Right, because if you only have one energy source for the entire world,
right?
Which, guys, come on, diversify. That's
like, even if we had all 100% solar, we probably should have some wave stuff and hydroelectric and everything too.
Hydroelectric, geothermal. Yeah. I mean, there's so many different ways you could get passive energy from the Earth itself if you're just not being a jerk about it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What remained of humanity fled to space, joined the now fully corrupt UAC, or signed up with the resistance group ARC, Armed Response Coalition.
Yeah.
The world became a complete war zone and a veritable playground for all the demons.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. So essentially, it's Armageddon. Armageddon actually happens on Earth thanks to UAC.
Yep. That is until the Slayer steps in once more from on board their orbiting sanctuary.
Oh.
Where they were kind of sent to. After discovering a plot by the Makers and their leader that was centuries in the making and involved sacrificing the remains of mankind, the Slayer hunts down numerous priests of hell that the Khan Maker allied with. As those events unfold, it's found that the plan was to harvest the souls of the human race by destroying Earth, and in the process procuring more Argent energy that could be siphoned off by the Makers. Mm-hmm. This was to ensure that their own dimension, their homeworld of Urdok that we mentioned before, could survive.
So is there something happening to Urdok where it will fail, or is it just it's also a fellow civilization dependent on this Argent energy now?
It's dependent on the Argent energy.
Okay.
And they're also fighting hell.
Okay.
Yeah. After the awakening of the Icon of Sin, which is this giant bestial demon,
Okay.
the Legends of the Damned would break their pact by invading Urdok. After a climactic battle, the Khan Maker is defeated and the Icon of Sin destroyed, putting an end to Hell's invasion once again. With the conquering of Urdok by Hell and little to no Maker resistance to keep them in check, the Damned Legions would begin to dominate every dimension, eventually finding a way onto Earth once again.
Oh my gosh, we can't escape it.
In fact, the Doomslayer, seeking a solution to the Eternal War,
It is an eternal war.
sets out with another uneasy alliance with Dr. Samuel Hayden
This dude again.
to recover the Seraphim, a maker known as Samar Maker.
Sommer, what? Huh?
Samar Maker.
Sommer Maker.
Yeah.
Okay.
That followed the species' creator, God the Father. Using a life sphere, essentially a storage device or prison for a deific soul, the plan was to resurrect the Father and use his power to restore order to the solar system.
I'm not sure if I caught all of that, but okay.
Basically, there's a life sphere that holds a deity's soul that we can then use to resurrect that deity.
Oh, okay.
During this quest, it was revealed that Hayden and Samur were one and the same, a consciousness split long ago.
Oh, come on. Do we have an otherkin plot now?
Yep.
Oh, it makes, well, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah.
It's somewhat painful.
After retrieving and then destroying the Father's life sphere, as it would mean that the Makers would just start their, soul collecting schemes all over again.
Right.
The Doomslayer retrieves the life sphere of the Dark Lord instead
Oh.
and sets off for Urdok. If the Slayer brings back the Dark Lord from the life sphere and then kills him, all the demons would perish.
Ah.
The Dark Lord manifests but appears as a copy of the Doomslayer before taunting him for a final confrontation in the eternal Maker City of Amora, before teleporting him away once again. There's so many teleportations.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's the, you're in a universe where it makes sense where that would be the best way to escape. Yeah.
After rallying what remains of the Night Sentinels, the Slayer eventually defeats the Dark Lord, who reveals that he is the real father of the Makers as every demon across the multiple dimensions disappears. The Slayer then falls unconscious as he is entombed within a sarcophagus once more, this time by 3 Makers, his fate unknown for now.
For now. Man, this guy has had a tumultuous
through hell.
life. You had to say it, didn't you? You had to say it. But I mean, just the commitment to violence in order to save, that is somebody who could never go back home.
Right.
That level of trauma, you'll never be able to find peace again. So he's might as well just keep fighting forever and ever.
Right, and they're just making him madder and madder.
Yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't, had like a cardiac arrest yet or something. Holy guacamole. Jeez. So
that's, in very broad strokes, the rundown of Doom.
Wow. We went to a lot of different places there. I did not know there were so many locations.
You just thought it was like,
Doom setting.
Mars and hell and that's it.
Yeah, but of course, again, I haven't really played any of the games before. I just know of the series, and
yeah, this one I didn't do a blind first hour of because I have played Doom Eternal and most of the Dooms before this. So
yeah, so it's not, you wouldn't be able to play blindly, but I mean, I'll say this: it's always good to note when there's a lot of games where people are like, there's not a lot of thought in the story. You just go, you shoot things, and you have a good time. And it's like, well, actually, there's a lot of thought to this story.
Yes.
And I don't mean to say a lot as in like, oh, they painstakingly had like plotted it out and had threads or anything. But they put some effort into keeping things consistent and making characters somewhat consistent and like having interesting twists that didn't break the universe,
Right. There are some people who I think do not care for story in their demon slaying, which I get. But at the same time, if there wasn't a story, we wouldn't be covering it.
Right.
I mean, even like we would probably find story still.
Well,
Like we found story in Superliminal.
We did. I think that's the thing, is one of the things I keep going back to. And, I briefly mentioned I was thinking about, about pivots of my focus career-wise. And one of the things I realized that makes me want to pivot is because, no matter what job I end up doing, I end up telling a story, right? I end up telling the story of, right now a lot of it is what will happen once you do blah, because that's just kind of how my job is right now.
Right.
But I think for humans, it's a way of conveying information that is always going to be that people will always be receptive to, is having a beginning, a middle, and end, a journey of a story that you can get through. And I think the idea that a video game does not entertain that idea is very short-sighted, because I think naturally as humans, it's something we go back to again and again and again. So it's okay if you like video games that genuinely don't have any story, like Tetris.
Right.
I mean, I'll play that endlessly. Chime is one of my favorites. We have a whole Patreon episode we talk about the games we love that don't involve a specific story. But I think to assume that the medium as a whole, in general, does not have any kind of story arc basis whatsoever is to be very short-sighted of the human experience and what humans want to have in their entertainment and what we find comfort in and the kinds of stories we end up telling ourselves over and over again. So it's cool to hear about the way that Doom does that, because everybody likes to think that it's not really story heavy, but especially when they did their reboot recently with the Mars mission, there was a lot of good conversation I saw about how it was actually, kind of trying to tell a story, and it was trying to actually highlight, some common journeys that every human has heard in a story before.
Yeah. And I would just like to point out, I did quickly look up Ardent and Argent energy.
Yeah.
And they are both used in Doom. So that's probably why I got...
Oh, okay. So they're interchangeable. That's
not
okay.
100% interchangeable. It does seem like Ardent is the one I see more prevalent. So that's probably why I used it first. But Argent is also used. So that's probably...
Oh, okay.
It gets confusing.
Okay.
But either way, the name of it doesn't change the story.
No, it doesn't. And this was really interesting. So I'm glad we went to a classic. It's been a while since we've done an old school,
an old franchise anyway.
Yeah, an old school franchise, I should say. Yeah.
I mean, we just did Journeyman Project not too long ago.
I forget that that's old because I didn't know about it before we did the episode. So that's on me. That
literally I think that first one came out or finished production the same year, the year before this came out. The first Doom came out. So, but yeah. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Join us the Thursday after this releases. We will do a live stream of me playing Doom Eternal, you said?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Might as well go with the newest one. We covered the whole series.
There'll be a lot of me probably going like, because I'm assuming there's a lot of monsters I have to shoot and hope don't kill me. So that tends to be my reaction.
And the Thursdays that are before we release an episode.
Mm-hmm. The alternate Thursdays.
Right, the alternate Thursdays, we are doing Skies of Arcadia still, where we are doing terrible, terrible voice acting.
Terrible voice acting, and it's such a fun time. And yes, you can mock us in the chat. We understand.
Yeah.
That's half the fun. But
thank you for thank you for watching. I'm in stream mode. Thank you for listening.
Yes, thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.